Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another edition of Celtics Talk Radio Postgame Chat number 28. Tonight is 7th April, 6:30 p.m. Eastern, Saturday, and you're listening to Danny and Igor, Celtics Talk Radio Postgame Chat number 28. The title is Kyrie Irving is done for the year. The Celtics lost the race for the first place Eastern Conference. Tonight, Kyrie Irving had successful surgery on his knee. It was the second surgery in the last 3 weeks, and according to Daniel Ainge, he's expected to be back until, at the training camp. So as Daniel Tice and Gordon Hayward. Stevens on Marcus Smart. Marcus won't be available for foreseeable near future. We haven't planned on Marcus being able in the first couple of weeks in the playoffs in the whole time. Practically no Marcus Smart in the first round. Celtics coach also said that Gershon Yabusele last night against the win against Chicago hurt himself. He had sore knee after Friday's game. The team sent him to test MRI to be safe. Brad Stevens, they don't think it's anything, but they are going to get some imaging just to make sure. Kyrie Irving today before we pass to Kyrie Irving, say that tomorrow, 1 p.m. Eastern, the Celtics are playing in Atlanta, and injury report for Atlanta game: Morris, Marcus, rest out, Yabusele, left knee soreness doubtful, and Hayward, Irving, Smart, Tice all remains out. It's going to be very interesting to see in which of the 3 remaining games the Boston will use the full team, against DC or Brooklyn. Playoff matchups and lottery percentages could be both affected on that decision. Will the Celtics play full roster or no? Anyway, in the last 3 games, the Celtics went 1-2 and lost Kyrie Irving along the way. We first lost literally without point guards from Milwaukee Bucks. One of the decisive games for the first place Eastern Conference. 102-106 for Milwaukee, 24 points Brown, 5 assists Horford, and 10 rebounds Monroe. Then in the game in Toronto, we definitely lost the first place, and Toronto definitely won the first place, clinched, and the season series without Toronto and Boston is 2-2. And Toronto won 96-78, 21 points Mook Morris, 3 assists Jason Tatum, and 9 rebounds Terry Rozier. Finally, the last night, 6th April, Friday, 111-104, 32 points Brown, 10 assists Monroe, and 11 rebounds Monroe. Monroe is the first reserve center in the history of NBA to have the triple-double. We will talk about him a little later during the show. So, as I told you, the injury report for tomorrow game: no Morris, rest. Yabusele left knee soreness. He's doubtful, actually. But more likely he will not play. We will see. Hayward, Irving, Smart, Tice all out. Hayward, Irving, Tice all finish the season, should be ready for the training camp, and Marcus Smart should miss the first round of the playoffs. Now, when you look at the standings, Toronto number 1 clinched 52-22, 72%. Number 2, Boston clinched 54-25. 3 losses more than Toronto, 68%. 3 games behind Toronto. Number 3, Philadelphia, 49-30. 8 games behind Toronto, 62%. Number 4, Cleveland, 49-31. Cleveland trailing half a game or 1 more loss than Philadelphia. Philadelphia defeated Cleveland last night in thriller game. Number 4, Cleveland, 49-31. Then Indiana, probably number 5, clinched 33, 58.8%, 10.5 games trailing to Toronto. Number 6, Miami, 43-37, 54%, or 14.5 games trailing to Indiana. Now we have listeners and viewers. The race between Miami, Milwaukee, and Washington kind of tankathon. Who will play against Celtics? Right now, Miami 43-37, 14.5 games, and Milwaukee 42-37, 15 games trailing to Toronto, or tied with Miami, 37 losses. And Washington has 1 more loss, 38, 42-38, Washington number 8. So, if the playoff starts today in the Eastern Conference, you will have the matchups, Toronto Raptors, Washington Wizards, Boston Celtics, Milwaukee Bucks, Philadelphia 76ers, Miami Heat, and Cleveland Cavaliers, Indiana Pacers. Injury report. Like I said, Brad Stevens said, Gershon Yabusele, more tests, and Kyrie Irving out until the training camp. Marcus Smart will not play in the first couple of weeks of the playoffs. That means out until the end of, until May, probably. And Gershon Yabusele will have his left knee tested on MRI. Hope it's nothing is serious. Brad said they don't think it's anything serious, but they are going to make some additional tests. Kyrie Irving underwent successful surgery today to remove 2 screws in his left patella. Danny Ainge said, "We expect Kyrie to be fully healthy for training camp in the fall." The Celtics announced Kyrie Irving underwent successfully surgery to remove the 2 screws in his left patella. Danny Ainge said that the surgery went exactly as planned, and we expect Kyrie to be fully healthy for the training camp in the fall. Celtics previously we had report that the Celtics will go the procedure this Saturday to remove the 2 screws implanted in the patella from injury suffered during the 2015 NBA Finals. Kyrie expected to be fully recovered in 4 or 5 months. So this Saturday, Kyrie Irving went procedure to remove 2 screws implanted in his left patella after patellar fracture he suffered during the NBA Finals 2015. Following mid-March procedure to remove tendon wire that has been implanted at the same time as the screws, pathology indicated the presence of bacterial infection in the site of hardware. To ensure that no infection remains in his knee, the screws will be removed. The fracture in Irving patella completely healed and the knee remains structurally sound. Expected to make a full recovery 4 or 5 months. Today, just released from the Celtics. The Boston Celtics announced Kyrie Irving underwent a successful surgery to remove the 2 screws in the left patella. Danny Ainge, the surgery went exactly as planned, and Kyrie Irving, expected to be fully healthy, ready to the training camp in the fall, said Danny Ainge. Now, the 2 screws were inserted in the 2015 when the 5-time All-Star suffered the fractured kneecap injury in the NBA Finals with the Cleveland Cavaliers. Irving also had tendon wire inserted during the 2015 surgery. That tendon wire caused him discomfort and infections, and it was removed on March 24th. Pathology tests proved that on tendon wire, they discovered bacterial infection, which raised concerns about whether it will spread. after speaking with numerous experts on the matter, the mutual decision between Kyrie and the club is to make additional procedure to remove screws to be better ensured there is no lingering infection. Upon removal on the tension wire, the earliest timetable is beginning of September. And now, since the screws have been removed, Irving is out of the playoffs with recovery time now 4 to 5 months. Irving this season played in 60 games, averaged team best 24.4 points per game and 5.1 assists per game, career high and 3.8 rebounds. He joined Gordon Hayward and Daniel Tice left me among the Celtics to suffer season-ending surgery. And the Celtics overall crossed the 200 games missed by the top 8 players, which is the highest in the history of the Boston Celtics, the worst injury-wise season in the history. And it is interesting that previously, Boston Celtics believed the recovery would be close to 3 weeks and that before the second surgery. And he will be available for games 4 or 5 in the first round of the playoffs. I will stop there. I will welcome my partner, Daniel Camacho, to the show. Welcome, Danny. And tell me, what do you think about this Kyrie season-ending surgery? I mean, before I continue, I will tell to you and to the Celtics fans that are watching us and that will watch the show on 13th, where we will have Jay King from The Athletic, who will speak more educated than me about the matter. Don't worry, it should not be the long-time concern. We read, Daniel, at the web, all kinds of crap from the other team fans, and ESPN, TNT, and national medias are practically dancing of joy, kind of, that the Celtics lost Kyrie. And, we saw some stupid re-evaluations of Isaiah Thomas, Kyrie Irving trade. We will come back to that later. What are your initial thoughts about Kyrie Irving second procedure?
Well, when it comes to that, Igor, you and me are basically of the mindset that this was a surgery that he was going to have at some point. That was one of the reasons why the Cleveland Cavaliers and him were basically separating, because he told Cleveland before he left that he was going to have it, and he felt it was better to get it now than to get it later. And, because the Cavaliers didn't want to have him get it, because they felt the timing with LeBron James was short, and, they needed to keep winning in order to actually get LeBron, to stay. And they felt, Kyrie Irving was not of the same mindset that they were. That, Kyrie Irving was thinking more about himself and more of his career than they were about basically than he was about basically trying to keep LeBron in Cleveland. They decided basically, you're not thinking the same way that we are. We're thinking more about keeping LeBron than you are. So we're just gonna have to get rid of you. You're gonna want out. Fine. We're basically gonna have to say goodbye. And Kyrie ended up in Boston. And the Celtics right now are thinking long term. You and me have said it from the get-go. This season was not about winning a championship. You were not going to end up beating Golden State the moment you ended up losing Gordon Hayward. You were not going to beat Golden State. You were not going to beat Houston. You probably were not going to beat Cleveland in this case. And Danny Ainge basically realized it, that right now was the best time to get that second procedure, get the screws out of his knee, and make sure he was 100% going into next season alongside Gordon Hayward, and make sure you had the entire team ready to go and get yourself the possibility to win a championship next year. Next year, based on what you saw this season, you will be considered the favorites to come out of the Eastern Conference. I do not care what happens in Cleveland. Unless LeBron and the Cavaliers get another big-time superstar to join forces with LeBron in Cleveland, that roster will not be the favorites to win the East. I do not care how good LeBron James is, ladies and gentlemen. The Boston Celtics will be the favorites to come out of the East next year, thanks to the fact that Kyrie Irving is getting this surgery today. So Danny Ainge and the Celtics did the right thing. They did the smart thing in this case. So let the people, let the haters do whatever the heck they want. Let them say whatever the heck they want. They were desperate to see Kyrie Irving and LeBron James go toe-to-toe with each other this year and see if Kyrie Irving basically had what it took to basically try and make LeBron James and prove to LeBron James that I was right and I made the smart move by leaving you. Well, again, he still has the opportunity to prove it. Heck, if LeBron James ditches Cleveland, he's going to basically prove he made the right move by ditching Cleveland. Because who the heck is going to go to Cleveland if LeBron leaves? There ain't nothing else there if LeBron James leaves. Whatever the heck, even if what they get out of the Nets pick we gave them, it turns out to be a good thing. It's still going to take that player several years to develop, so there ain't going to be no reason to go to Cleveland anytime soon. So Kyrie Irving will still prove he made the right move. So Danny Ainge, ladies and gentlemen, made the right decision by getting Irving the surgery today. It's a good thing that the surgery, for what they said, there was no severe damage down there. Everything was still intact. It was really just that it was an infection situation. So getting the screws out basically was all they needed to do, and he'll be ready by training camp. It could have been more severe, basically, for all we could have known, with the fact that he played so many games this year with those screws inside his knee. So we got to consider ourselves lucky, Igor. We got to consider ourselves lucky that he will be ready by training camp. But next year will be the year that we will be playing in the finals if we're not attacked by the injuries again like we were this year.
I mean, listen, guys, if we have the full roster right now, I would tell you that the Celtics will come out of the Eastern Conference. But like you said, right now, in my view, the Cavaliers are favorites to come out of the Eastern Conference. Okay? And after the Gordon Hayward surgery, we said, okay, the season is over. We're probably not making the big finals. And the goal is developing the young talents and to see which player from this roster can be long-term useful player for the Celtics. And we saw that. And plus, we already won 54 games, one game more than the last year. We were projected to go 41-41 after the Gordon Hayward surgery. Then we were projected from Zach Lowe, an ESPN smart man, and I am not underrating Zach Lowe, on the contrary, but they have their BPI prognosis. So that prognosis said the Celtics will go 41-41, 50% team. And we went on 16 games winning streak. We had 7 games winning streak, 6 games winning streak, 3 times 4 games winning streak. And I mean, we already improved 54 games, which is amazing and testament to the Brad Stevens absolutely candidate of the coach of the year. And some people, foolish at our page, are accusing me and you, Danny, for saying that the Celtics want to avoid Cleveland in the second round. They are convinced that we can defeat Cleveland, and I'm saying, okay, if we will root for it, of course. If we beat Cleveland, I will say I was wrong and I will be the happiest man on the earth, right? But I don't see any joy in Celtics being eliminated earlier in the playoffs in the second round, okay? That has been said, I want the Celtics to repeat the previous year achievement, that is to be in the Eastern Conference Finals. that would complete the great season then, because if we lose from Cavaliers in the Eastern Conference Finals again, nobody can tell us anything, right? And this would be the great season for me. Now, it is possible if we avoid Wizards, in my view, in the first round, and Cleveland in the second round. The standings right now are just in our favor because we would play Bucks in first and Philly in second round. With Bucks, we are favorites, in my view. With Philly, 50-50%, but with the home court, we will win, I hope. And that's it about the standings and the playoffs this year. By the way, let's return to the Kyrie injury. The Celtics believe the recovery would be closer to 3 weeks before surgery. So before the surgery, after surgery in March, Brad Stevens said the Celtics were hoping that Kyrie Irving will be closer to 3 weeks absent than the 6. That means 3-4 weeks, 1 month. Stevens, speaking to a reporter before Bulls, he said, obviously after initial surgery, the thought was he would be back in the 3 to 6 weeks. We thought it would be closer to 3 weeks, the way he was initially progressing well. Well, it's one thing out of control, but he's bummed, as you can imagine. The prognosis remain well. Of course, the knee is structurally sound. We removed the screws for infection. Doctor discovered infection after taking out the tension wire by pathological examination, which has been the main source of Irving discomfort. Everybody told us from get-to-go it was going to be fully recovered. They just didn't anticipate him having right now the screws out, but that shouldn't affect him on the long term, and he should fully recover. The good news is that fractured patella is completely healed, and the knee is structurally sound. That is encouraging sign. We have seen stars like Westbrook, Wade, Kidd bounce back from the knee surgery, continue their career. Irving himself wrote at the Instagram post, "It will be the hardest thing to do something is accept the uncontrollable things life throws at you." And also wrote, "This season was only snapshot from me of what to come from me, Celtics fans. We don't know what to come for Irving, though the current outlook is positive. But we do know that the Celtics have put themselves in a good shape to be healthy the next training camp, because Hayward is going to be back, Irving is going to be back, Smart healthy, Theis healthy. Hayward filmed jogging the other day and said he made the great progress on recovery. In absence of the two superstars, Tatum has been given go-to scoring role, and Tatum is blossoming as a result. Also, the young players, Brown had career night, 32.7 of 10 threes the other night. Jason Terry, absolutely monster. And they all elevated their play. Moose, Greg Monroe, he had triple-double. The first reserve center in the NBA to have the triple-double, and the first Celtic center after the B, Robert Chief Parrish, to have triple-double. Ainge is still sitting on a pile of high-value assets, like the Kings' first-round pick in 2019, or the Lakers' pick 2020. If it jumps to, or the Lakers' pick this year, 2018, if it's between 2 and 5, or the Kings' pick next season, or I think the Philly pick, the Philly pick next year. We have Memphis pick also, we have our pick, and Tatum and Brown will be entering their primes in the next couple of seasons. Boston could potentially create the max space in 2020 or 21st. Depends on when Irving can become unrestricted free agent 2019. And there are rumors about Celtics landing Kawhi this summer if he becomes available. The teams are preparing to land Kawhi. The Spurs are saying everything will be all right, but the teams, including Danny Ainge, are preparing for the summer. And the Celtics will be tough out postseason, even without Irving and Hayward. Those are the stunning news. The situation definitely not what expected. The Celtics, without Gordon Hayward, 54 games totally overachieving. But now this sequence is reminding us, Danny, on Kevin Garnett injury 2009. Kevin Garnett hurt his knee February 2009. He was supposed to be healthy to return, but when they opened scanned his knee, they discovered something bad. And he sit entire season and playoffs. Without KG, the Celtics, defending champs, who had gone 62-20 in the regular season, were still competitive. They beat the Bulls in the first round series, including 2 overtimes, 1 double overtime, and even in triple overtimes. And it wasn't decided until Game 7. But then the Boston could not hold 3-2 lead against Orlando. Orlando defeated 4-3 Boston later with, Dwight Howard. Orlando Magic were in the finals where they were swept or 4-1 or 4-0, if I'm correct, 4-1. 2009 from the Lakers. The absence of Garnett had finally caught them up. Realistically, that is probably the best situation with the current Celtics. Win a tight first round series with the youngsters. Find out what the playoffs are like. Maybe fast or not fast the second round. Then fall to healthier opponents in the conference finals. When rotations are shortened, experience becomes more significant. Ever since Hayward injury, we deep down knew that the season was over. Even during 16 games winning streak and 54 wins right now, finals were impossible. Now we know for sure we must wait for the big finals until the next year. Your thoughts on what I said, Danny?
Well, you're right. It's unfortunate, but it's the truth. This is a league that's predicated on you having superstars. You don't win unless you have them. You're not. It's really only a few teams, that really have been able to win with those players having a special type of talent, teams that have some sort of, bond together. The San Antonio Spurs being one of those teams, with Parker, Ginobili, Duncan. Those guys weren't, dominating type players like LeBrons and Currys and Kobe's. Those guys, along with, with Greg Popovich as their coach, they had, a special type of mindset, the special type of playing ability with each other, that they were able to get the job done each and every year. You don't find that every year, and, when you do, you got to take advantage of it. You got to have guys that have a dominating type play in order to win, and it's got to be a big 3, a big 4. You, again, don't really win with only 1 or 2 superstars. That's why teams that have only 1 or 2 superstars, again, don't really win. Look at the situations right now that you see in some of these teams that only have 1 superstar. You look at LeBron. He's only got one himself. Yeah, he's got Kevin Love, but can we really call Kevin Love a superstar? He's a star, not a superstar. Which is why nobody expects LeBron to beat Houston or Golden State. Because LeBron has himself, he's the best player, but like we said, Igor, his battery is going to run out before he gets to the finals, because he doesn't have that other superstar to help him. or those other two stars or superstars to help him. You go to any other team, basically, that might have those other type of players. Nobody expects Toronto to be able to beat Houston or Golden State, which is why everybody says the NBA Finals is really the Western Conference Finals. Whoever wins between Houston and Golden State is really going to be the NBA champions this year. So it's unfortunate, but that's what this sport has come down to. It's not like the Super Bowl. It's not like or should I say the NFL, the NHL, or the MLB, where you can easily end up, becoming a team that doesn't have several stars, but you still end up getting a shocker and walking away as the champions in that league. So for us, unfortunately, we don't have that this year thanks to the injuries. We have several players that basically are talented, but unfortunately the really good players, our two best players, are gone for the season. So ladies and gentlemen, you just got to accept it. Brad Stevens, in my opinion, is the coach of the year. I won't be surprised if Dwayne Casey ends up getting it, because people are going to look at him as being, oh, his team is in first place. But come on, look what he's had. His two best players haven't faced an injury all year, as far as I know, in this situation. His team, for the most part, none of his players, if I'm correct, a majority of his players haven't been out all year.
Yeah.
And yet our guys,
they have like 35 games missed by top 8 players.
Yeah, so 35. So combined, ladies and gentlemen, their players have missed 35 games. Gordon Hayward has missed basically every game this year, and that's just 100. And that's just 200. Look at that combined between our players. And Brad Stevens pretty much had us in the running for the number 1 seed until we lost to them just a few days ago. Yet people want to say Dwayne Casey deserves the Coach of the Year award. Let him lose Kyle Lowry or DeMar DeRozan in the first game of the season. Does he manage to have that team in the running for the number 1 seed? I don't think so. It's as simple as that. That's the question you have to ask yourself if you're one of those people that gets to vote for who gets the Coach of the Year award. Look at the Tyronn Lue. You have the best player in the world, and your team couldn't keep up with Toronto or a Boston team that was missing all those players. So you people better not give it to Tyronn Lue, and we all know that Tyronn Lue isn't really the coach of that team. It's LeBron James. Whatever the heck he wants, that's what ends up happening in this situation. So this Boston team this year, Igor, has had a successful season in this case. Yep. It's just unfortunate how it ends up, how it's probably going to end up ending. Now, you mentioned the playoff standings in this case, and the people we've had to deal with in the group. Some of them saying they want, Washington, they want Cleveland. Yeah, and me, Igor, we may sound like, they feel we're wusses because we don't want to face the top teams. Well, unfortunately, it's not that we don't want to face them. It's just that deep down, we're realistic. We know, for one, the NBA, again, wants the best, matchup in the NBA Finals that's going to get them the best ratings. A hobbled Boston team that doesn't have Gordon Hayward and doesn't have Kyrie Irving is not going to be the team they want in the NBA Finals. A Toronto Raptors team that keeps getting its ass kicked every time they go at it with the Cavaliers is not who they're going to want in the NBA Finals. So do you really think they're going to give you a chance if you go at it with the Cavaliers? No. You're going to get screwed by the Cavaliers, in this case, by the officials, should I say. Even with no Kyrie Irving and no Gordon Hayward, and of course, you're still without Daniel Tice. There's a possibility that you could have Marcus Smart for that series because you wouldn't face them until round 2, but we still don't know what the situation would be for him. But you face the Cavaliers in round 2, odds are you're not going to get a fair treatment in that series. They're going to make sure LeBron and them beat you in that matchup. Right now, ladies and gentlemen, we, of course, if you're someone that doesn't know the standings, you don't know the tiebreaker information, I'm somebody who has been following that situation and putting updates in the group. Right now, the Milwaukee Bucks today were going to go at it with the New York Knicks, if I'm correct. If they end up winning, they would go back into a tie with the Miami Heat, and both those teams would be one game ahead of the Washington Wizards. The Celtics, Igor, would have a chance to actually impact who they would face in round one, because the Oklahoma City Thunder right now haven't actually clinched a playoff spot in the Western Conference. The Miami Heat's next game is actually against the Thunder. And, of course, we got to go at it with the Washington Wizards next week. So the Miami Heat, odds are they're going to lose that game against the Thunder. If we end up beating the Wizards next week, the Milwaukee Bucks, if they take care of business in the game today against New York and take care of business against the Orlando Magic, which is their next game, odds are we will end up facing the Miami Heat in round one. It would be the Milwaukee Bucks against the Philadelphia 76ers or the Cavaliers, depending on how everything goes with the 76ers, of course, if they take care of business down the stretch in their situation. While Miami would face us in round one, and Washington will face Toronto. So, again, ladies and gentlemen, it's a crazy situation in this case with how there's so many teams we can end up facing. But again, I do not want to face Washington, because think about that, Igor. Yeah. You could face Washington in round one, Cleveland in round two, and then Toronto in round three. You're a nut if you actually want to have to face that type of, scenario, all because you want to prove, basically, you got that attitude to be the best. You got to beat the best. Come on, if we had Irving and Hayward and everybody else healthy, I would say go for it. But we're a D-League type team right now. Yep. You're an idiot if you want that type of scenario.
And just to add on your informations, Marcus Morris rest again will not play tomorrow against the Hawks, 1 p.m. Eastern. Boston, Gershon Yabusele doubtful. He probably won't play. Will go to the knee examinations. And the usual suspects, Irving, Hayward, Smart, Tice, all out, obviously. Now, Steven said that against Washington Wizards, they will have the full squad because it will be back-to-back game, or maybe, yes. So we will have the full squad today, Steven said, in Washington, and maybe against the Brooklyn, because the Stevens wants to see the full team before the playoffs. Let's return to Kyrie, and then we will make break of Marcus Morris, and then we will discuss about him and his ejection. With tonight's game against Chicago, the Celtics crossed the 200 total players lost by injury. And the Celtics games lost total for the last season was 104. And this season twice more and more wins. Twice more, before you tell me that the last year was better than this year. Last year, 104 injuries, and this year twice more than 200, and more wins. So this year is better than last year when we talk about the results and development of the young players. Hayward missed, obviously, 77 games. 78. Ankle fracture, knee soreness. Morris missed 26 with knee soreness, hip bruise, ankle sprain. Marcus Smart missed 24, ankle sprain, hand laceration, thumb surgery. Kyrie Irving missed 18, facial fracture, quad contusion, shoulder soreness, knee soreness surgery. And Shane Larkin missed 13, knee soreness illness. Daniel Tice played 12, meniscus tear, hamstring soreness. Jaylen Brown 11, eye infection, and Achilles soreness, knee soreness, concussion. Alford for 7, concussion, calf soreness, illness, ankle sprain. Shemi Ojule 4 with a back soreness. Gershon Yabusele 3, ankle sprain, illness. Aaron Baines 1, elbow sprain. Terry Rozier 1, ankle sprain against Milwaukee, and Abdul Nader 1, illness. Irving message to the Celtics fans. Listen to this. This is beauty. The hardest things to do sometimes is accept the uncontrollable things life throws at you. Full stop. You try consistently to learn space, grow space, and prepare every day to equip your mind, body, and spirit with tools to deal with some of those things. But I feel when those moments arise, they all give you a sense of unfulfillment, simply because it puts some of your professional journey and goals on the brief holds. It simply tests of your perseverance and will to be present even in the wake of what's going on. In this case, finding out I have infection in my knee definitely in a moment that I now accept and move past without holding onto it, proving to the naysayers completely that they are freaking wrong, and accomplish the goals I've set out for the team and myself. This season was only snapshot of what to come from me, and the journey back to the top of Mountain Everest continues. Standing Rock, Silks Drive, I don't know what it is. Let's go Celtics. Celtics fans are looking forward to hear how loud it's getting in the TD Garden during the playoffs and experience how intense the environment gets. Thank you. Now, it's the right moment to hear the MOOC and 5 minutes audio, then we will continue about MOOC and his technicals.
Thank you, Mark. What happened with Bobby last night?
Nothing really. I thought it was, good competition. He scored. He had a couple words, which was, fine with me. At the end of the day, I just thought, he kind of came in my space, so I just gave him a little push. I didn't think it was that serious. The refs again overreacted.
It seemed, just from afar, it seemed like things had kind of died down, and then the second tech came.
Yeah.
That's
what I'm saying. I just think, it just went too far. Like, as far as the referee, because, me and him were, talking. At the end of the day, we're grown men. It's the NBA. It's not college. It's not high school. So if we're having a conversation, we're allowed to speak, and we weren't saying anything that was harmful or anything. He said what he had to say. I said what I had to say. We both moved on, and the ref just felt like they had to take control of it, which, I just thought that was too much.
You said at the beginning of the year, I think it was your first time when we talked to you, that, you were willing to be a bully for this team, and you were willing to be... How important do you think that is in the playoffs, especially if you guys don't have Kyrie, for you to be out there kind of standing up for things?
That was, when I first got here, and, I thought that fit me perfectly. But at the end of the day, I'm trying to do what's best for the team. I'm not trying to be able to get kicked out the game, and I think that they need to realize that, because I'm not really having conversations with referees. I don't have anything to say to them, and, they're doing too much by throwing guys out the game. Like even with the Toronto situation, I'm a human being. Somebody smacked me in my face and we're up 12 or 15 and game's over. How am I supposed to react to that? Go watch it go look at it and see what happened. And then another player is speaking to me. Am I supposed to just be quiet and not say anything, and because of my reputation, I think, they just, throwing me out. But like I said, I haven't really done anything this year to tarnish my reputation. I felt like I've been really...
Did you talk to him last night after you guys both got...
Yeah, I did. It's crazy. I knew at the half he got ejected first 8 minutes into the game, and again, it was so calm, like, you don't even know what he said. He didn't do nothing crazy, then approach the ref and, they throw him out. And then same with me, it's like this is a short lease, I'm 7 years in. I feel like, I get a little bit more respect, and my lease should be a little longer than what it is right now.
Well, that's what Sherrod was saying. Do you guys think that you have that reputation and then they're, approaching it in a certain way?
Yeah, I mean, the leash short, we just tough guys, man. I think we're just passionate about the game. So, I think sometimes that get the best of us, but I mean, being in the league, like I said, for a long time, I would think the refs would, kind of know what kind of, guys we are. As long as we're not being disrespectful, I think for the love of the game, I think they should just take a step back and, just analyze it before they just pull a trigger, because once you kick somebody out, you can't take that back. Once you get a text, you can't take that back. And I think, not even if it's just me and my brother, I think for the league-wide, I think guys are, that's just frustrating. Like, we're all grown men, what I mean? This is not college, so, they have their opinions, we have our opinions, but I just think, just to throw somebody out the game, I just think it's too much.
Marcus, growing up, apparently, Keith was the hothead and you were the voice of reason. Is that still the case?
No, we both were hotheads, man, in college. We was getting texts. I've been getting texts my entire life, both of us. I think it's just a passion for the game, man. I just love playing the game, and, sometimes I feel like I'm getting slotted, so I feel like I need to, express, my thoughts, because, I love the game and I love competing, so, I think that just get the best of us. But, going into the playoffs, that's nothing to worry about. I promise I won't get no text unless we're just getting blatantly cheated, what I mean? I want my team to win, so I won't, put my team in no jeopardy or anything like that. But, I'm still passionate about the game, like I said, so I kind of feel like I'm getting that Rasheed Wallace treatment. It's just quick trigger,
The Philly thing?
Could be. We winning too, man. Eagles won the Super Bowl, they hating on me, man.
Villanova.
Getting crazy. Villanova, Philly looking good. So, even the Sixers, hey, I'm with Boston, but the Sixers have been looking really good, so I think it might be a Philly thing. Nah, it's all good, man.
What would you say is the key component of the Celtics to really keep you guys grinding and keep going forward?
The key component? I mean, just a doubt. I would think, like myself, I think, as I know all the players on the team, you're looking at the doubt, and that's just motivation. People count you out, and you're not going to do this, you're not going to do that. Got to be motivation, what I mean, prove everybody wrong, but, still, we're in Boston, we have, high expectations, so we want to come out and we want to try to fulfill them the best as we can.
How long is this weekend to stay up?
I didn't delete it yet? I thought I deleted it.
Yeah, it's gone.
Yeah, I deleted it. Yeah. And, it was to be funny, but after yesterday, I was kind of serious. It was, it was much, man. I don't, I'm a nice guy. I'm not trying to get thrown out the game. I can get a tech here and there, but getting thrown out is just a little much, man. And my mom, she calls me.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we returned. You hopefully seen the video of Marcus Morris, and Marcus Morris on the press conference discussed his ejection to be at Chicago Bulls game. It was 11th technical by Morris, and I think second ejection. Maybe I'm wrong. Anyway, Mook Morris said he felt disrespected by conversation around playoff seeding. And he said, as reporter asked him about the conversation around Eastern Conference playoff seeding and the assertion made by TNT that teams were dying to play Celtics, Morris started to smile a little bit and he said, I hope so. Morris said, I hope so. I do. I really do. The Celtics have overcame adversity basketball-wise all season. They relied back to win 16 games in a row after where the injury overcame rookie walls of Tatum and the others rookies, went 4-0 on impossible difficult road trip and without their stars. Now they are not terrified of the first round matchup. This team, we are resilient. Morris said, everybody on this team is ready to compete. We all feel disrespected. Kyrie, Marcus, Tice, all guys are major for us, but they are not here, so we still have approach of the game as if we are gonna win and get as far as we can. We have great coaches that have been really good with us and really resilient. We are ready to go. Al Horford, one of the most, only all-star left healthy. When asked about Morris, the same question, smile. I think we are at the point that we are in playoffs, for set. We are 2 seed. We have home court advantage. At this point, I cannot wait until playoffs to start. We have the formality. We have to finish these games out and be better and looking forward to the playoffs. From Horford, that counts as club back. There is one team Morris would not prefer to go. Washington Wizards and twin brother Markieff. Man, every day we talk about it. Honestly, I don't want to play them. Can't lie. I don't want to play them first because it's my brother and we're going to be at war. And when I go out there, I've been telling my teammates, this is wartime. It's like fighting for your life out there. And I hate to be in the war against my brother in the first round, to have to bully my brother when I know it's going to be like the same going back. It's a little different for both of us. So Morris said he's been watching the standings cheer for brother Wizard to be 6 or 8. And after loss to Atlanta, they dropped them to 8th position, which was good news for Morris. Twins. The Wizards now trail Bucks 1 game, and the Celtics are playing Wizards Tuesday. Milwaukee, meanwhile, trails the Miami Heat by half game in the win column, although the Heat own the tiebreaker over Milwaukee. So in the case of tiebreaker, the Heat will be 6, Milwaukee 7. That's my brother, so I watch them. I think they can beat Toronto. I think that would be the good matchup for them. Us, to be good matchup, don't get me wrong, but I think them against Toronto would be good matchup too. As for the Celtics disrespect, Morris said he hasn't heard anything from any players. That's enough talking. I don't see players saying, let's play with the Celtics. There is a lot of commentators saying it, but they are not playing. They are watching and laughing, and we will see when we get to the lines. More from Morris in a second. Maybe I lost it. Yeah, it's probably up. Anyway, all I have to say about Morris in injection that the people can watch our video chat, the season preview. It was 3 hours long. We discussed about every single player and the Celtics roster. We mentioned Marcus Morris. We said, I'm not going to tell you, I tell you so, you know. And we tell that, my opinion, Marcus Morris, Mook will be pleasant surprise and upgrade over the Jay Crowder. And when everybody else was saying, well, no, Crowder is almost at the all-star level, 3-and-D guy, cannot be, the good three-point shooter, cannot be replaced. We said the same. Even in January, when Mook was struggling because he was not healthy, we said don't count out Mook because he was with the good, huge piece for the Celtics going into the playoffs. And it is materializing right now. Everybody's talking about Mook, and even the idiots from the Celtics writers, so-called bloggers, that wanted to trade Mook during the season. I mean, trade Mook for picks. They now talking that the Mook should be re-signed for $20 million per season. So there is absolutely no brain in those people. There is absolutely no middle ground. You know, he is even all-star or trade. By the way, I don't like Mook's tags, 11 tags. And today, I think that Brad Stevens said that he is not afraid of Marcus Morris's technicals. And by the way, I'm trying to find the quotes from Mook Morris in which he is saying that he will not make any technicals or ejections in the playoffs, except if the Boston Celtics are blatantly robbed by the officials, okay? And I'm totally okay with it. And also, Brad Stevens today said that he's not concerned at all with two recent Morris's ejections, want him to avoid getting thrown out of the games, but likes when guys play. He likes when the guys plays with the edge. So what do you think about Mook's text? And do you like his toughness, Danny?
I like his toughness. He's willing to stand up and get in the face of some of these other players, and literally just tell them, I'm not going to accept, what you're giving me. What we saw yesterday, in my opinion, was really uncalled for. When it came to the situation with Morris and Portis, I do think the league has really got to find some sort of way to resolve these issues where they're just not giving double technicals and then kicking both players out. Portis is somebody that recently, if just in case you're somebody who's been under a rock, for the last couple months, Portis got into a fight with somebody from his own team in the locker room, and they had to suspend him. His own team suspended him.
Broke his nose, broke his face.
Yeah, so this guy Portis is a loose cannon right now, and his own team in the league basically can't seem to find some sort of way to deal with him. And last night, Morris wasn't doing anything. Morris was just trying to get set for the next play. Portis gets right up into him, bumps him, and Morris basically tells him, what's wrong with you? Portis basically, gets in his face, and Morris tells him, I'm not accepting that.
Yeah.
And the official, who's the youngest official on the floor, basically does not want to risk the two of them getting at it. He's thinking, this game doesn't mean nothing for the Bulls. They're already trying to lose it, because they don't want to win. The Celtics are already locked into the 2 seed, so it means nothing for them either. So I don't want to risk a fight taking place. So he kicks both of them out. Come on, we don't need to be seeing crap like that. If anything, kick the guy out that's starting the fight. You don't go kicking both guys out and making it look bad, giving a technical to the guy that isn't causing the problem, knowing that that could very well lead to the guy getting a suspension later on. Because technicals eventually, if you get too many, will lead to a 1-game suspension. The league has got to do something when it comes to that situation. And again, they got to find a way to deal with this guy Portis, because that guy, it's obvious he's got an attitude situation. And if the guys on his own team are not safe from him, imagine the guys from the other teams that he's got to deal with.
I mean, absolutely. And again, we pointed out at Mook during the whole season that he will be the big piece in the playoffs. And again, everybody that underrates Mook, he is right now probably Danny, alongside Tatum or behind Tatum, I don't care, our main offensive guy. Okay? So without the two superstar talented players, our offense throughout the playoffs will be carried by Tatum, Mook Morris, Terry Rozier, and number 4, Jaylen Brown. Al Horford will be facilitator. Al Horford is for the defense, for the assists, and for facilitating offense. The second unit, we saw the last night, will be carried, of course, Mook Morris when he starts off the bench, but the main guy will be who? Moose. Moose, last night, next subject. Greg Monroe, Moose, last night became the first reserve center in the NBA history to log a triple-double of points, rebounds, and assists. Greg Monroe helped account for 39.6%, 40% of the points, or 44 points out of 111 of the Boston. For example, he was playing just 58.3% of the game, and he helped to score 40 points. Extremely efficient and amazing. He scored 19 points, 10 assists, led to 25 more points. So, accumulative 44 points. So again, the points scored are not the only way to influence the game. You have other statistics, assists, and the points after assists. Greg Monroe has become the first Celtic center with a triple-double after famous Chief Robert Parrish. Brad Stevens sees similarities between Horford and Greg Monroe. The Boston Celtics signed Monroe 2 months ago. By the way, Danny, did we say on the show multiple times that Monroe will be stopped, Monroe will be the main facilitator of the bench, when everybody was saying the Celtics hosts that Daniel Tice will be in rotations and Monroe will not play? And Monroe is now playing, not only because Daniel Tice is absent. I was saying at the show when Daniel Tice was healthy, Greg Monroe is in the rotations. Daniel Tice will be out of rotations and Monroe will play before Daniel Tice. Why? Because he's extraordinary offensive talent. Daniel Tice is great defender and great rebounder, but he cannot measure with Greg Monroe. Monroe is better overall player. We had discussions about that, right? And everything is proving right. Boston Celtics signed Greg Monroe 2 months ago. They're still finding ways to rave about him. And you can go as far as you want. But his passing is exactly what Brad Stevens likes. They're willing to share. They move ball quickly. Al Horford and Monroe. Both are good at catch and pass. And that's one of the things I'm sure was on Monroe was this. I'm sure Monroe was a good passer at the high school. And in Georgetown, they ran the Princeton system, which with all the back cuts at the weak side, probably really was helpful because he's great back cut passer. We saw the last night with Bird. Can treat the middle. Obviously, both Al Horford and Monroe are willing. Monroe played 23 games since February 2nd, averaged 2.1 assists per game, the fifth highest at the team, and 4.1 assists per 36 minutes. 4.1 assists per 36 minutes. This is sixth highest on the team. And he's having assist rate of 19.3%, which is fifth highest on the team. Starting center or power forward, Al Horford averaged 4.7 assists per game this season, the third highest on the team. 5.4 assists per 36 minutes, fourth highest in the team. And he's having assist rate of 24%. Al Horford better passer than Monroe, but the percentages wise, removing Kyrie Irving, who will miss the remainder of the season, and the Celtics added Gibson, who will not play in the playoffs. And suddenly Monroe and Horford are two main facilitators at the Celtics land. Also, we saw Morris and Tatum to be point forward. For those who saw Monroe in the Detroit and Milwaukee, it's not, surprise. The big man holds career high 3.5 assists per game in 2012-13 season in the NBA and 3.8 assists per game in college. The Princeton offense that Monroe played with Hoyas under head coach John Thompson III certainly helped them as a passer due to the schemes, emphasis, and movement of the guards and guard skills, and movement of the guards regardless of the position. Monroe, who will operate down the low and high like a throwback center, is alert passer and both can see the floor and zip accurate cuts and pass them. Perhaps the best season game, 19 points, 11 rebounds, 10 assists in the Celtics 111-104 win over Chicago. And he's the first Celtics after Chief Parrish, my favorite center of all the time, who scored the triple-double. In March 2nd, 187, he put Monroe, the full skill set on the display last night. And following the game, Horford said, no question about Monroe's usefulness as a passer, ability to play in place of him. No question. Since the day he came, we all knew that he can really pass the ball and read defenses. With Chicago, Chicago was trying to take away Terry, and Greg made the right plays every time. He made simple plays, and he has ability with a guy like Ty's out, and Greg really help us. He can run the offense at the second unit, though not only me, but also through him. He can make those passes. Monroe is certainly going to play the role in the Eastern Conference playoffs. And I said it when he came. And we have the great article. We don't have time for this. Check it on Celtics.com. John Karalis, our friend from Lock of the Celtics podcast, how Monroe can unlock the Boston Celtics second unit. Check it. Danny, right now, are you surprised with the Moose playing great?
No, I'm not surprised with Moose playing great. Think about it, Igor. Look how great he played against us when he was playing with Milwaukee prior to them basically letting him go. Moose basically was one of the reasons why we had so many difficult issues against them earlier this season. That's one of the reasons why Ainge went and got him with, the disabled player exception. I will tell you this, ladies and gentlemen, if we do not get re-sign Marcus Smart after this season, I am hoping that Danny Ainge finds some way to re-sign Moose after this season and brings him back, because a bench of Marcus Morris and Moose for next year will be one dominant group. Right now the two of them together has really worked. With Marcus Morris basically knocking from the outside, and
Terry Rozier, Marcus Smart.
Exactly.
Morris.
And think about it, Igor. Right now, we got Tatum and Brown doing what they're doing right now on the starting lineup. Once you have, Hayward and Irving that comes back, You have the starting lineup basically doing what they're doing. You know, depending on how we decide to have things take place, if you do go back to what you have planned with Irving and Hayward, Brown, you know, Tatum and Horford as the starting lineup, then okay, you know, you can plan something a little bit different. But if you decide to maybe go a little bit differently and you keep maybe Baines in the starting lineup, something like that, you could easily maybe contend with putting Tatum or Brown in the bench and try to have a different playmaker on that bench alongside Rozier. You could have a pretty dominant bench alongside Monroe with Morris. Like I said, Marcus Smart, if you do not get him to come back because he doesn't want to basically work with you, take maybe a discount, Monroe is the one you should be trying to keep. Monroe has been dominant, and he will basically, if you manage to get past the first round, I think he's going to be one of the reasons why.
I mean, I'm trying to find, while you're talking, the great subject. We will talk with our we will try to talk with Jay King and our guest in the next show. Kate Smith mentioned from Celtics blog and Real GM about I was thinking, what are the chances the Celtics to re-sign Monroe the next season? Any thoughts? Kate Smith said he's going to have to be okay with his bench role, and he's going to be ready to take potential discount here, maximum $6 million. He's around $5 million, so 125% raise, it's like $6 million. And if he agrees to take discount here in Boston, money-wise, and if he agrees to be bench guy, he will return to the Celtics, okay? The Celtics can offer Monroe system $6 million, the bench guy like this year, you know, and we saw that there will be plenty of playing time during the season because, you know, the season is long. There will be playing time for everybody in 82 games long season. And if he accepts that, then even if Smart accepts $10 million, we can re-sign one of Baines or Monroe. You know, it will be tough to re-sign Baines and Monroe. You know, Baines will have to be something like veteran minimum, but with Tice being ready, there is no need for both of them. I would like to have the whole team for the next year, don't get me wrong. But I think that the Celtics will choose Monroe to re-sign alongside Smart. So if Smart and Monroe accepts the money and the roles, they will be Celtics the next year, you know? What do you think?
Well, that's what I'm saying. I don't think in this case, to me, it's either Monroe or Smart. And to me, Smart's the more important one. But if Smart decides that, you know, he's not willing to work with us because he thinks he's worth, you know, $15, $16, $17 million in this situation, and Danny Ainge decides I'm not giving it to him, then, you know, I'm going to let you go and enjoy yourself, go somewhere else. Then you try to talk to Monroe. Now, of course, Monroe was making almost $15, $16 million, you know, prior to coming to us. That's the only thing that I'm a little bit worried about, that Monroe, you know, could be thinking I was making way more than that. So, you know, I could be getting that type of money go elsewhere, you know. So if we can try to get Monroe to basically agree to stay with you because he's thinking I could be competing for an NBA championship with you, and so I'll take it, then you accept him coming. Like you said, Baines, if it's Baines or Monroe, you take Monroe. Daniel Tice is under contract with us next year, so you can easily stay with those two and live with it. But it's Smart or Monroe. Smart would be the more important, but if Smart basically doesn't want to work with us because he wants his money at the max, you let him go. That's the way it is.
I don't have the mathematics in front of me. I don't know if we can squeeze $10 million of Smart and $6 million of Monroe the next year. I must check. But again, your point is good. And if Monroe goes, we can re-sign always Baines for $5 million. He showed to be useful player, right? Anyway, let's talk about Gibson. Gibson was signed using hardship exception. And no, hardship exception is the exception where the teams that have 4 players missing 2 weeks or more in the action can sign and get additional roster spots, 16, like Celtics. The money that you give to the player will count to the salary cap, and you cannot play the player signed by hardship exception in the playoffs, and you cannot play the 2-way contracts in the playoffs. We have a lot of questions in the page last night. So again, Gibson, Jabari Bird, and Kadeem Allen will not play in the playoffs unless you cut somebody else and sign one of those 3 guys to the actual NBA contract, which will not happen. But Gibson showed the great play last night, 9 points, 2 assists. Go to Wibblit Green. You have Gibson highlights. The great three pointers, quick release. He played for the Celtics Summer League squad, 2012-13 Summer League. He's shooting 37.4% from 3 in China and more than 10 attempts per game. This is important. High volume 3-point shooter. And Steven said, we need somebody to put the ball in the basket. So Gibson will be with the Celtics 10 days. He replaced Xavier Silas and should be ineligible for the playoffs roster because he signed with a hardship exception acquisition. Unless Celtics decide to cut somebody, waive somebody else on the 15 man roster. So as we said, Gibson is 30. He will provide the guard depth. He played in China. He is 33.7 points per game. For Qing Dao, 6'2" guard, played in Dallas Mavericks this year, 2016-17 year in Dallas. Little scoring 6.2 points in 17 games. Do you like Gibson?
He had a good performance yesterday. It was a pretty impressive performance by the young guys yesterday overall. Even Bird, it was pretty funny, with yesterday that he was pretty, unimpressive the first few games, and then yesterday he takes his first shot and, it's a miss, and I go tell my father that would have been a miracle if it had gone in. My father starts cracking up when I said that, and then next thing you know, he makes his next one, which was a 3, and my father's like, I think he heard you. And I'm like, you better call Ripley's Believe It or Not. Is that show still on? Because they better put that on for the next episode. And next thing you know, Bird starts having shots going in, one right after the other, and I'm like, are we sure that's not Irving under disguise or something like that? Maybe the Celtics are trying to, get to the NBA Finals in some sort of other, way. Bird basically is, under disguise or something like that. But it was an impressive game yesterday by these young guys. Allen, Bird, all these guys had a really great performance yesterday. It's unfortunate that that's the way it goes when it comes to the NBA playoffs. That unfortunately all these young guys are not going to be eligible to play and get some playoff experience. Of course, the roster can only go to a certain amount. That's why Allen can't basically go because the hardship is basically given to us only because of the fact that we have so many guys out. And then, of course, Bird, he's basically, brought in on a two-way contract. So basically, due to all these guys that are missing, we have a limited amount of guys available. So really we're having to depend on Ojale, Yabusele, and all these other guys having to basically be the ones that are going to have to step up as the young players.
The next subject, Danny, we will talk about Jaylen Brown's development. We are referring to the article of our friend Donald and 24/7 site. Again, you can check their site, Celtics247.com. They had the great article about us, Celtics Talk Radio. We want to thank you, Donald, and Celtics 24/7. And the guys, the rest of the guys, you can find the article about Celtics Talk Radio at Celtics Talk Radio Twitter page and Celtics Talk Radio Facebook page. Danny, now let's discuss about Jaylen Brown and his development a little. Jaylen Brown last game, 32.7 of 10 threes, and the 10-game stretch that turned around the Celtics season. Brown's development was quite evident even during similar 9-10 scheme. 21 years old, improvement is evident. Brown has defended. When he played the last summer, Brown paid a visit to Danny Ainge. I am ready, he said. Ainge. Especially Brown worked in the summer, and Ainge told Brown he will be asked to be primary defender team against the top opposing guards. So, mission accomplished or not, from significant individual plays like critical skills against Utah or timely contest against DeMar DeRozan, in 1 point Celtics win, Brown delivered. He outperformed the likes of Klay Thompson in 2 matchups against Warriors and Champs. He held opponents like Jimmy Butler, Westbrook, Harden, and mostly Donovan Mitchell. Among the players that played 40 games, 25 minutes, Brown, 100, is the 5th rate defender at any position in the NBA. He ranked 2nd among guards, trailing to only whom? Marcus Smart, 99.4. You prefer defensive win shares? Among the guards, Brown is 4th in the league and tied with Smart among the guards, 0.56 win shares. Why Brown is so good? Because, he's all defensive candidate. I agree with Celtics 24/7. Brown's offense, shooting. Brown's development as a shooter has been tremendous. When he was drafted, the guys was usually saying like, hey, Brown is nice, but he cannot shoot. He sucks, and he's not as good as Tatum. But looks at the shooting. For entire 2016-17 season, he shot 45% for 4, 34% for 3. True shooting, 54. And in games in which Brown started, 20 games, his true shooting rate exploded to 57%. In games in which he played 20 minutes more or more, 27, 58%. In games after the All-Star break, 25 games, 59%, rounding up to 58.5%, with a rate from 3 points range of 38%. During the NBA season, Brown, perhaps the weakest part of the game, developed to above average. And this season, 2017-18, he's shooting 56% from, from 54 to 56 true shooting. And efficiency field goal percent This season 53, the last season 51. If you pay attention, you may notice those numbers. And true shooting rate in January, February raised to 58%. And since the All-Star break, 10 games without last nights, and the first 10 games, true shooting percent climbed to 61%. Offensive rating, this month from 98 jumped to 109 in February, March. Clutch shooting time, that would be Brown, 62% effective field goal rate in clutch, 100% in clutch sequences. And Tatum is the second, 52% in clutch and 75% in clutch squared. Brown and Tatum have smaller sample size than Horford, and they are more often shooting in more favorable positions. If you need someone to create late game shoots, it will be Irving. Of course, the teams are doubling him, but still the disparity is not big. Brown has combined 45 clutch or clutch sequel attempts, and Tatum 91. This puts Brown and Tatum behind Irving and Rozier and Horford in attempts in clutch times. Irving more clutch attempts, 134, Rozier 107, and third Horford 72. And then number 4, Tatum, and then number 91, and Brown 45. Clutch is the last, 5 minutes of the game, if the game is tight. And handling, passing, finishing, last year 30 dunks, this year 50 and more, and shooting percent from the 0 to 3 feet, this season 63%, and etc. Assisting percent, this year 8.7, last year 7.2. He's improved, and turnovers are bad. Agreed. Last year turnovers rate 12.5. This year 12. And the conclusion from those guys: enjoy the process, because the fans may think that he's not the polish as Jason Tatum of the dribble, but he's gone from the weak shooter in college to the good shooter, excellent clutch NBA shooter. He became excellent NBA defender. He's working on the free throws and stopped worrying. And, those guys said many banners will be raised. We enjoy the process. Brown and Tatum are great. But indeed, Brown is amazing. I like Brown. What do you think?
Brown in this case, I don't think ultimately that he'll be as good as Tatum when when you can say their careers will come to an end. But Brown, in my opinion, he is going to be one of those that you can say he's going to be one of those that would be an attacker like LeBron. I think Tatum is one of those that you can say would be more like a Kobe type player, that he'll be doing the jump shots, the 3-pointers. Every once in a while he'll go for a layup, while, Jaylen Brown would be in attack mode. But Jaylen Brown, he does need to find a way to, limit the turnovers. He's got to find a way to, learn how to, control his dribbling and all that. But he has had a better year this year than he did in his rookie year. But, he has had a better year overall, but he does need a lot more work. Tatum, in my opinion, it's unfortunate that he does look like he's, a better player right now than Brown is, and yet Tatum's in his first year, which is why, when many people look at it and you ask them the question, who would you rather trade for someone like Kawhi Leonard, Brown or Tatum, many are going to say Brown. That's the way it looks, and it's unfortunate for someone like Brown, and Brown, you tell Brown that he's going to be someone that they say he's going to be heartbroken, because he's a young kid, and so is Tatum. It's just the way it is. But Brown is somebody that has gotten better. He's gotten the shot is going down, and I think the playoff experience for him is going to be crucial, knowing that he and Tatum, along with Morris, as you said earlier, and Monroe and Rozier, those guys are going to be the main guys that are going to have to bring the offense. Technically, those guys, along with Horford and Larkin, those guys, we're going to go as far as they take us. It's as simple as that. This is really, about pretty much a six-man team now. It's as simple as that. Because Baines really doesn't bring much to the table in this situation. And once you remove those guys, the rest of the team, like I said earlier, is a D-League, G-League team, however you want to call it, in this situation. Yabusele, Ojale, all those other guys, they really don't bring much. They just go on the court to take up the time. They take space. They know a three here and then. They may get a rebound here and then, but that's really it. So Brown and Tatum, the rest of these guys, we're going to go as far as they take us. So this playoff experience is going to be crucial to what these guys basically bring to us next year, and helping Irving and Hayward possibly end up getting to the finals, and even who knows, maybe winning a championship. But Brown, he is going to have to really, and I mean really, step up his game in the playoffs and really, show everybody that I have more that I can bring to this table. Because right now, the fact that someone that's a rookie in Tatum is proving to be more valuable to this team than you are is not a good sign for you, when this team is looking at someone like Kawhi Leonard to possibly pair up with Kyrie Irving, Gordon Hayward, and maybe Al Horford, unless Al Horford is thrown into the mix as a filler, as they say, because you are supposed to be the second-year player, the one that has more experience, the one that's attacking the rim and all of that. You are supposed to be the one that's basically the more valuable, not someone like Jason Tatum. And already Tatum, who's just getting experience, is looking more valuable. That is an embarrassing situation for you. And it's all because you don't know how to dribble. You keep turning the ball over at critical times. You keep missing your free throws. It's not a good sign for him, Igor, unfortunately.
Yeah. Listen, like I said, Brown has limitations, but he can be all-star and great player for us in years. No doubt in it. He's not a bad player. He's improving, and he developed this year to be, triple threat in the offense. He can score from the threes. He can score out of transition. He can drive the closeouts to draw the free throws. He can go to the free throw line. He's shooting free throws, more than 80%, I think. And he can shoot the threes. And we saw against Chicago when one possession, the Chicago player are, guarding Brown after fifth or sixth made three, and he tried to prevent Brown from scoring three. And the Brown is driving to the closeout, and he passed the defender and make 2+1 play. So he's smart, he's intelligent, he can attack you, and he's improving out of catch and shoot opportunities, But like you said, Tatum has no limits in my opinion. He can be top 5 scorers in the NBA, 25 points per game guy in the future, very, close future. The Celtics will have at least 2 more All-Stars. So I will say Tatum between 20 and 25 points per game, top 5 scorers in the NBA. He's right now option number 1 at top 2 seed Eastern Conference. So that is telling you about the Tatum. Now about About Kawhi, I don't want to have too much talk. He's not available yet officially, but the teams are preparing, including the Celtics. And when we talk about the Celtics, asking price from Spurs will be Jason Tatum and King's pick, probably both Brown and Tatum. And then Boston says, okay, you can have, for example, no Tatum, you can have Brown and King's pick. And then they ask for another pick, etc., you know. But we will see what happens in that front with Kawhi Leonard. But it is there is possibility that Kawhi Leonard end up here because Boston has all the right assets, right? And Danny Ainge is genius, as we said. There is still slim possibility that we land the Los Angeles Lakers pick. The slim chances, but there are still chances. Not we possesses the Kings pick 2019. Now, after losing Kyrie, Danny Ainge said, we are not giving up on this year. So, Danny Ainge still believes the Celtics still make some playoff noise. While the club's postseason outlook altered without Kyrie Irving, we're not giving up on the season, said Ainge. Absolutely not. We have competed with the best teams in the league with all the injuries. We had to Marcus Smart and Kyrie Irving couldn't favor the ties. We beat hungry Oklahoma City, and we beat Portland, Utah, we beat Toronto, and we played some fantastic basketball despite the challenges we have from physical standpoint. So I like watching these guys play, and they are going to fight. The first example of the Celtics' refusal to fight is Hayward injury. Ripple effect, 16 wins. Now Kyrie Irving is out. We didn't give up then, and we haven't done that now since Kyrie is gone. And instead, our team played really well. I feel like these last couple of games, losses in Milwaukee, Toronto, we are tired. That's not what we are. In long season, you have stretches, bad stretches, and I thought we played terrific in West Coast, and we came back, had big game against Toronto. Our team looked good, and then we had right back on the road, and I felt we weren't ourselves. We were a little fatigued and just didn't play well. But I'm excited about the playoffs. I really am. Like Terry Rozier, Shane Larkin, and those guys alongside Tatum and Brown and Marcus Morris and Horford and Aaron Baines and Monroe. I mean, the whole group. These guys are looking forward to play in the playoffs. And we have the luxury to give to them a little bit rest without taking them completely out of the rhythm in these last 4 games, which is very rare to be able to do heading into the playoffs. And last thing, while in the postseason, Tatum, Rookie, and Brown can be even better. The experience they're going to get in the playoffs is huge, no doubt. And even after Irving, is out, the club didn't want to put any risk. And he said, of course, we were hopeful that the procedure would work and Kyrie would be back for the playoffs. And then, unfortunately, we won't have him now. He's huge part of the team, huge part of the future. And the good news is we feels like he will be better when he returns in the training camp. And Ainge is hoping no more medical matters. I don't think I've ever experienced this. I mean, I remember McHale got hurt. I remember Larry Bird got hurt. Remember Barkley was hurt. I remember Danny Manning got hurt in Phoenix. Those things all caused the teams. I was there when Kevin Garnett got hurt. I've been in NBA a long times, and I've seen traumatic injuries, but never as many injuries to the key players as right now. And Danny Ainge is correct, Daniel, right?
Yeah, unfortunately for us, we've been facing, a situation where it's almost like somebody put a curse on us. Heck, even Gordon Hayward's family, their dog ended up with an injury. It's ridiculous. I don't think any team, has faced as many injuries as this throughout the history of the NBA. It's crazy. I don't know what it is that was done to us that caused this, situation. From day one of the season, we've been dealing with injuries. I don't think anybody on this team has basically been able to avoid the injury bug basically biting them. So unfortunately, like I said, the fact that we were able to finish in the second seed is a miracle, Igor. Which is why I say, for anybody out there, I don't care who they are in terms of, and I'm not talking about fans, but in terms of the NBA analysts, reporters, for anybody out there to actually say, this season, the regular season, isn't a successful one for this Boston Celtics team, you gotta be an idiot or have some sort of brain damage. You gotta have something wrong with you to say this isn't a successful regular season for this Celtics team. Come on. The Cavaliers have the best player in the world, and yet they couldn't finish ahead of the Celtics, who had all their players pretty much have something wrong with them at some point, pretty much. Think Kevin Love missed part of the season, but at least LeBron, think about it, Igor. LeBron usually sits down at some point during the season. That's the history of him. Just recently, we all heard him, and this is something I was telling my father yesterday during the Celtics game. Everybody knows that the 76ers and the Cavaliers were playing last night in a game that was basically for the third seed. And I was telling my father recently, LeBron James told the media that it doesn't matter what seed we are. When it comes to the playoffs. I told my father last night, that was a load of bull crap. Because if it didn't matter what seed you are, you would be resting right now. You would be resting. You wouldn't be playing right now because that's the history with you. You're usually resting down the stretch. You don't play all 82 games. And look at Igor. He's playing last night, and it's the 80th game of the season. So unless Igor decides to play, unless LeBron decides to play the last two games of the season against New York, that's going to prove the seeding mattered this year to him. Which proves what he told the media was a load of bullcrap. So this season is totally different when it comes to this whole situation. So unfortunately for us, it's a different story. This season was successful for the Celtics, and people gotta realize that. What happens in the playoffs? Yeah, we're gonna feel a little bit upset if we lose in round one, mainly because everything looked like it was going so well, and we had a chance, and then with a snap of the finger, it all went south, pretty much. But that's really it. That's the only reason to feel a little bit down about it. But we also got to realize, we only have, just a couple of months before the next season begins. And come that point, we could very well be looking at a team that will be playing for an NBA championship. And again, we look at the other teams around us. Next year, the Toronto Raptors won't be much of a threat if you have your team healthy. The Cavaliers may not be a threat to you whatsoever, especially if LeBron ends up leaving in this situation. So, Celtic fans, you just got to look at it just like that. Think, you didn't have your team healthy, and you nearly swept both Houston and Golden State this year. None of those media people want to look at it like that, but you got to look at it like that. You came just a few possessions away from sweeping the season series against both teams that everybody looks at as the best two teams in the NBA. Those two teams don't want to admit it. The media don't want to admit it. But it's the facts. And you just got to look it up. The information online doesn't lie. Simple as that. Stats don't lie. So, I'm not going to stress it. Igor, you're not going to stress it, and the fans shouldn't stress it.
Absolutely
We just got to wait a few more months.
I mean, this season is more successful than the last one. We have 45 wins, 54 wins. They projected us 41 wins, those ESPN experts. I mean, after Gordon Hayward was hurt, you know. Zach Lowe stated on his podcast, quote, I don't know how they did it to 54 wins. So the Celtics fans should be content and not worried for the future, like you said. And this summer, we could get Kawhi. And maybe, if not, this year or the next year, Davis will be available. So, and plus, we have the draft picks. If we don't trade, you know, the Kings pick, we will have probably the Kings pick. Kings suck, you know, and we have more picks like Memphis pick, and Memphis is not good as well. So, I mean, the bright future is ahead of us. Let us recap the last three games. Now, Chicago Bulls 104, Boston Celtics 111. Lauri Markkanen, 20 points, 5 rebounds, 3 of 5 for 3. Really great performance. Sean Kilpatrick, that almost became a Celtic, but he changed his mind and went to the Bulls at the last moment because he got better offer. 24 points, 5 of 7 for 3, and excellent performance. Jaylen Brown, career high, 32 points, 4 rebounds, 11 of 19 field goal, or 7 of 10 shooting for 3. Greg Moose, Monroe, 19 points, 11 rebounds, 10 assists. The first NBA reserve center in history to get the triple-double. Points in the paint, Celtics 46, Bulls 44. And this is what's important. I think that Skal mentioned during the live that in the last three games against Utah, against Milwaukee and Toronto, the Celtics gave up 56 and more points in the paint. The line is 46. If you allow less than 46, it's good interior defense. If you allow 46 points, it's good. If you allow more than 46 points, it is not good. And the defensive rebounding, protecting the rim, and points in the paint are very important in the defense if we want to progress to the second round or to the Eastern Conference Finals in the playoffs. Now, points in the paint, 46 Celtics, 44 Bulls. Assists, 35 Celtics. Extremely valuable stat. Team play, 35 assists and 25 Bulls. Now, the Celtics beat the Bulls 21-52 at home. 111, 104. Brown, 32 points, career high, 7 of 10 3 points. Monroe, 19, 11, 10. Bird, Jabari Bird, that you mentioned, Danny, 15 points, 3 rebounds, 3 assists. Excellent game. Marcus Morris, before ejection, 12 points. Gibson Jonathan, 9 points, 2 assists. Terry Rozier, 7.6 rebounds, 4 assists. And that's it. Greg Monroe recorded triple-double. Jaylen Brown recorded career high, 32 points. Jabari Bird, career high, 15 points, 3 assists off the bench. And, Raptors are finished off Pacers. So the Celtics are practically locked in the second seed. Milestones at the game. Season high, 35 assists as a team. Without two first point guards, Smart and Irving. And Gordon Hayward, which is also ball handler. Amazing. Season high, 35 assists. Jaylen Brown, career high, 32 points. Greg Monroe, second career triple-double, 19, 11, 10. Jabari Bird, career high, 15 points. Jonathan Gibson, 9 points. So, when you look at the statistics, largest lead, Boston 10. Fast break points, Boston 4. What else? Points in the paint, 46, Chicago 44, bench points 50, second chance points 5. We shooted 14 of 34 for 3, 41.2%. Interior defense was good. Now, first triple-double of Celtic center since Robert Parrish on March 29th, 1987. We are seeing the necessity of contributions needing the Celtics to stand any competitive by Greg Monroe on the bench. Greg Monroe substantially ball time, especially navigating in the high post and facing up defenders on his way to 8 of 10 shooting night. Flashes potential as offensive architect for Brad Stevens' offense. Monroe's emergence as possible X factor throughout passing, second chance points, feel for the game ability to put it on the floor, make the game and passes to the cutters while moving towards the baskets. Put effective lineups, even to attack one-on-one. Put effective lineups, slow pace defense, finishing inconsistency. He is a little inconsistent. Lack of shooting could be hidden if you put effective lineup, slow pace. Alongside Horford the best. Celtics are 8-4 since March 11 game and incredibly talented skill set available. Contributions of Bird and Gibson made snoozer that Marcus Morris escaped ejection. Extremely hard to watch, through the fourth. Tatum and Al Horford out, rest. Rozier was guarded well. Tatum may generate more shoots for both. The Rock will pull open spots thanks to the number of playmakers remaining, and the team's success will be dictated by ability to finish those looks. Throughout the Stevens era, that's been concerned in genuine. Can the team finish the great looks they naturally produce in the offense? Tonight they flashed 55.6% finishing and scored 111 points. The season has been wrecking by injuries, but I can't remember more fun and enjoyable group of Celtics than this one, except maybe 2002 team. They have been more adapted. By the way, Danny, I must tell you a joke. Last night, Celtics staff posed the staff Greg Monroe, the first Celtics after Robert Parrish in 1987 triple-double, first center. And then old Celtics fan posted the tweet. I remember Vitaly Potapenko to have the three fouls in a minute back in 2001. I literally cracked laughing, and it is the good place to remember Russian Ukraine center or Russian Vitaly Potapenko. Anyway, this team is fun. And Monroe triple-double, Burden Gibson breakout, Jaylen Brown career high, 32 contributions. If the Celtics are going to hang around in the playoffs, they will need more. But they are playing with the house money now. All pressure is off. Expectations should be nothing more for them than to play hard and supreme effort. But chances are we will get more than that because, we have all years long. And let me ask you, Daniel, what do you think about this Chicago Bulls game?
Well, again, yesterday's game, with so many guys out, the Bulls were just like us, a team that was playing with house money, didn't have nothing to play, no pressure basically. I thought, that they would basically just roll over and lose, knowing that they're a team that's in tank mode pretty much, but they ended up, trying to win the game yesterday. Again, like I said, Portis, acting up, trying to act all tough and all of that. The league has got to do something about him, Again, the guy tries to make the courts a WWE ring, He's like you mentioned earlier, he already broke his teammate's face. We're lucky he didn't try to do an attitude adjustment to Marcus Morris yesterday. The referees kicked him out before he had an opportunity to. But the Celtics yesterday with these young guys did manage to get the job done. And again, the game didn't mean nothing for either team in the situation since they're already kicked out of they're already eliminated and we're already locked into the second seed. Monroe with an incredible, performance yesterday. And, Jaylen Brown, again, it's arguably his best performance of the season, but again, he's basically a one-man show yesterday because there's no Tatum, no Irving, no Hayward, no Horford. So that was the type of game he had to take over if we were going to have a chance to win that game. So that's the type of attitude and, aggressiveness we need to see from him come playoff time if we're going to have a chance to advance further on. Of course, you need him to play, remember, we need you to pass the ball from time to time. We don't need you, trying to take over as a one-man show just to turn it over and, lose the ball out of bounds and things like that. But if he's got that type of mindset where he can take over and at the same time make the right moves, make the smart plays, kind of like LeBron, James Harden, those type of guys know how to do, then this guy will be a force to be reckoned with and will basically become a superstar as he develops. That's the type of mentality, the type of player we want him to be. Last night was a step in the right direction and shows he can do it, and it was a good sign. And like I said, that's the type of performance we want this team to have. The young players, again, all showed basically they have what it takes, and they're going to show to be valuable assets. And Danny Ainge, once again, proved, how smart he is, when it came to basically choosing the right players. And, it's going to basically make it where more general managers, more teams are just going to want to basically come to him and say, I'll basically take the players you got and you give me, I'll give you whoever I have on my team.
Excellent. Let us talk now about Toronto Raptors game. Again, Raptors won. The Celtics' largest lead, 6 fast break points. Boston 9, Toronto 12. Toronto plus 3 fast break points. Points in the paint, Celtics 35. Toronto Raptors 54. As I said, too much, 54 points in the paint. We must work on that in the playoffs. Also, bench points 43 Celtics, Toronto Raptors 44. That's pretty much equal. And the second chance points, Celtics 10, Toronto Raptors 12, Toronto Raptors plus 2. So the fast break points, Toronto plus 3. Points in the paints, Toronto large margin. Bench points even. Second chance points, Toronto better. The Celtics, like Ainge said, a little fatigue. Tatum played 28 minutes, 8 points, 4 rebounds, 3 assists, 2 turnovers, 40% field goal. Horford, 16 points minus 8. 16 points, 4 rebounds, 38.5 shooting, and 25% for 3, 1 on 4. Bad. Baines without points. Brown, 9 points minus 9, 2 rebounds. Rozier, only 2 points. Really bad game, and 9 rebounds and 3 assists and 2 turnovers. But overall minus 9, Rozier bad game, 11.1% shooting. Marcus Morris from the bench, 34 minutes, 21 points. Good game again, 5 rebounds and 1 steal, minus 6. Marcus Morris shooting 50%, 7 of 14, excellent form. Shemi Ojule, 2 points, 17 minutes and 2 rebounds. Greg Monroe, excellent game, 17 points and 8 rebounds, 3 assists, 2 turnovers. Greg Monroe shooted 57%, 4 of 7. The rest without only Gershon Yabusele 3 points. We shoot it for 3 of 22, 13.6. And it's not acceptable. The Raptors were great. Ibaka 15, DeRozan 16, Laurie 13, from the bench, one bleed X on 15. The Celtics threw a bunch of bricks at the Raptors and locked themselves at the second seed. After 3 quarters of Wednesday night, the Boston had 53 points. The Celtics' final total looks slightly less good. Boston dropped second straight game, failing to Toronto 96-78 in national televised game that looked painful on the one curve. The Celtics shoot really bad, 25 of 75 field goal percent, or 33.3% from the floor, and for 3 even worse, 3 of 22, 13.6% for 3. That way you cannot, win against Toronto defense, against polar vortex shooting, sloppy turnovers, and against fatigue. Toronto were exhausted too. They played the Cavaliers previous night. Generous in the first half was defensive battle. Less generously, perhaps ugliest 24 minutes of the season. Celtics limited Toronto starters to the 14 points in the first and 6 points lead thanks to Tatum and Brown. But Toronto answered by shutting down Brown and Tatum in the second. Boston Celtics shooted 27.8% from the floor in the second period, turning it over 9 times. The turnovers killed the Celtics. The Celtics had 14 turnovers and 22 points out of turnovers scored by the Raptors. That's unacceptable. They were without Larkin, Marcus Smart, and Irving. Having Rozier back made a difference, but still we had Kadeem Allen as point guard from the bench. Meanwhile, when Rozier went off the floor, the Raptors attacked Boston's less experienced ball handlers as Kadeem Allen and Tatum with enthusiasm. In the first 24 minutes were ugliest of the season. The second 24 were close second ugliest. The Celtics started third period, a low energy execution. Every time Boston put together some kind of run, 7-1, by 3 points play of Morris and Brown, triple by Horford. Toronto answered with one bleed, 3 or dunk by Ibaka. Toronto led by double digit entire second half, and Ibaka slam put up Toronto 16. Then Stevens inserted reserves. Monroe led the Celtics 21 points, 7 of 15 from the floor. Marcus Morris, 21 points, 7 of 15 shooting from the floor. Greg Monroe, 17 points, 4 of 7 shooting, 4 for 16. Brown, Tatum, Terry Rozier combined 9 of 28 field goals and only 19 points. The Celtics fired and gave up Cedric Silas. Kadeem Allen didn't find the range of 3. He shot it 0 for 4. Despite playing some solid defense. And, of course, Toronto clinched the first with that game, and the Celtics are second. Your thoughts on the Toronto Raptors game, Tanya? It's less than ideal not to have the point guards as a team, right?
Well, to me, that was the whole key to that game. For one, the game prior to the Cavaliers game prior to that night, the Raptors had been beaten. And to me, that was one of the keys to this game. The Raptors pretty much were desperate. Everybody was of the mindset that the Cavaliers were going to be the 3 seed, and the Cavaliers knew that going into this game, if we had beaten them, we would jump ahead of them into the 1 seed, while they would fall to 2. So they were desperate to basically win this game because they needed the 1 seed to avoid the Cavaliers in round 2. So we're playing them at home, and of course, I've said it, Igor, the Raptors, all they have is that they're dominant at home. The Raptors are not a good road team. They're a pathetic road team. So they needed this win more than we did. You look at the Celtics bench, they only had 2 decent bench players in this game, Monroe and Morris, and those 2 guys dominated in this game. While the rest of the Celtics starters, again, only Horford had a decent game. Everybody else in the Celtics starting lineup was terrible in this game. But you look at the Raptors Celtics game, the previous game in Boston, we ended up beating them in that game. So again, this game was a must-win more for Toronto than it was for Boston. We already proved that we could beat that Raptors team without Kyrie Irving in a game that pretty much, both teams, wanted. This game, it was more of a desperation game for Toronto than for us. So they played like they played like it, So I really am not as worried about this game. This game, I'm taking it, throwing it out the window in this case. What I take from this game, Igor, the fact that Monroe and Morris had some big time performances, that I take away from it, because for one, that says something. What happens if we do end up meeting them in the playoffs in this situation? That could very well end up happening come playoff time. Of course, again, depending on what happens when it comes to the final seeding, you may not end up seeing them in the playoffs, because if the Cavaliers end up being the 4th seed, it would be them facing the Raptors in the playoffs, and odds are the Raptors end up being beat in round 2. So you're not going to have to face them at all in this case, But again, you didn't have any point guards outside of Terry Rozier in this case, and the guards for the Raptors took advantage. All you had was Terry Rozier and Jason Tatum, your starters, but everybody else outside of Morris Monroe off the bench were D-League players, and they showed it pretty much. So this game, nobody can take it serious in this situation. You had a bench that comes from the minor leagues pretty much, and the bench for Toronto took advantage of it.
I have a few comments more before I move to the last game, Milwaukee game. I mean, first of all, I still don't believe that the Raptors will win the Eastern Conference, okay? At the highest chances, they have 50% against Cavaliers, in my view, but realistically, their chances against Cavaliers are not higher than 30%. Then I must congratulate to them. Boston was fatigued, like you said, and Rozier was still bothered by the ankle, obviously. And Larkin was back from the hospital, man, and we literally had no guards, except, like you said, Kadeem Allen, and they used Kadeem Allen in their offensive and defensive calculations very well. I give kudos to Dwayne Casey for adapting his game, because Dwayne Casey adapted attacking our zone differently this game. If you notice, we attacked, they attacked our zone in the transition, after, the full court offense. They also put, in the first half, Stevens was troubling Toronto with the monster lineups like Tatum, Brown, Morris, Monroe, and Horford. Then Casey put the small ball lineup, including DeLon Wright, Fred VanVleet, and one of the DeRozan and Laurie, alongside Pascal Siakam and Ibaka. That lineup attacked the Celtics bigs, and the Celtics bigs, especially Monroe, in the pick and roll coverages, could be found in the no man's land. We could not contain the Raptors' speed because we literally had no guards, like you said. And that's it from this game. Congratulations to the Raptors. Congratulations to the Casey. Everything that I said in the 197th show with Mike Dyer stands. The Raptors cannot shoot consistently from the threes. DeMar DeRozan will come back to the mid-range jump shooter DeRozan in the playoffs. Kyle Lowry will come back to the bad shooter Kyle Lowry for three in the playoffs and not facilitator. The main thing for them will be, can those two guys get the job done? If they can shoot consistently from the three as a team in the playoffs, they have some chance against Cavaliers in the second round or the finals, whatever. if they cannot shoot consistently outside, they have zero chances against Cavaliers. And that's all from the Raptors. Now, we lost realistically the first place in Milwaukee. I was disappointed because I expected the win, and despite, Milwaukee Bucks literally showed how much trash team they are, because, congratulations on the win. They have extraordinary player in Giannis Antetokounmpo, who had 29 points, 11 rebounds, and 6 assists and 5 turnovers, shooting 50% field goal. We literally had no point guards. Kadeem Allen started, and the second unit we saw some Tatum, point moves, things. Jaylen Brown played point guard even, and we still could have won. We played one of the worst games in the season. Anyway, let's recap the game. The largest lead, but like Danny Ainge said, we were fatigued and we were not ourselves in this game. And we literally had no confidence. Rozier out, Larkin out, Kyrie out, Smart out. The fifth point guard of the team, two-way contract started. Anyway, largest lead, Celtics 9, largest lead, and we still could have won the game. That is showing you how trash Milwaukee Bucks team is. And they are one of the ideal opponents in the playoffs. Miami is the most ideal, but the second for me, Milwaukee Bucks. Anyway, the largest lead, Celtics 9, Bucks 10. Fast break points, Celtics 9, Bucks 14, fast break points plus 9, Bucks. Points in the paint 54, the Celtics and Bucks points in the paint 66. They killed us in the paint. I talk about it. It's not acceptable more than 46 points in the paint. We gave up 66 points in the paint, 20 more than usual. So that's not acceptable. Points in the paint, Bucks advantage plus 12. Bench points, again, tied. Celtics 29, Bucks 28. And finally, second chance points, Celtics 11, Bucks 12. So they have fast break points advantage and points in the paint. That's what decided the game. Jason Tatum 20 points plus 11, solid game. Carried the Celtics with 2 assists and 2 rebounds. Shooted 38%, not the best game. 3 of 8 for 3. Alpha for 15 points plus 9. Good game again. 5 assists and 1 turnover. Shooted 66.7%, including 1 of 1 for 3 and 2 free throws. 5 rebounds, but 5 assists and 15 points plus 9 plus minus. A good game. Aaron Baines, great game, 12 points, and he was shooting 6 of 10 field goals, 60%, and 4 rebounds and 2 assists. Good game. 22 points, but minus 2. Jaylen Brown, 24 points, great game again, and shooting 9 of 15, field goal 60%. Jaylen Brown, 2 assists and 4 rebounds, 24 points. Kadeem Allen, the first start in career, 23 minutes, 2 points, and minus 7. He was in the defense, tenacious defense. Mook Morris, 13 points, minus 11, and 5 turnovers, 3 assists, and 3 rebounds. Mook Morris, 25% shooting, 4 of 16. Not so good game, bad game. 1 of 6 for 3, Mook Morris. Shemi Ojole, 2 points. Greg Monroe, 9 points, 10 rebounds, and 2 assists, and 3 turnovers. 44% shooting, not the best game, but again, good game for almost double-double for Monroe. And Nader 5 points, minus 5, not good game. Again, we shooted 7 of 23 for 3, 30%, and 46% field goal, not ideal. And that's it. Giannis had 29 points, Chris Middleton 20 points, 18 points from Eric Bledsoe, and 12 points from Jabari Parker. So, Brown, Tatum, not enough. Celtics lost in Milwaukee, chance for the first place against Giannis Antetokounmpo. On Thursday against Bucks, the Celtics had no ball handlers, only Kadeem Allen, and the list grew no longer. Milwaukee led by Giannis, 29 points, had 106-102, 4 points win, close game. In early game, the Celtics looks like may pull out another impossible victory. Milwaukee defense proved to be trash, allowing Celtics to carve them in the pick and rolls with combinations of Brown, Morris, and as a ball handlers, So Brown and Morris were ball handlers. Tatum scored the 3 midway through the first, and Gershon Yabusele, he did the bow like Gershon Yabusele. Defensively, the Celtics dropped back against Giannis, allowing Bucks star to do whatever he wants, finishing in the first half 15.6 of 10 shooting, -6. In the second half, the Bucks began to close the gap. The Celtics turned the ball over 5 times. The turnovers were killers, and the Milwaukee turned those 5 turnovers into points of the turnovers and put together 14 to run to lead by 8. The Celtics answered with post-up baskets by Monroe, followed by 3-pointers and buzzer beater by Tatum, 11 points in the game. The Celtics pulled ahead 3 early in the third, and Brown hit pair of jumpers, curling of the screens, one behind the arc, one inside. Sticking with the strategy forcing Antetokounmpo to shoot, the Celtics managed to limit Milwaukee offense. But the Bucks offense responded with 17-7 run, led by the bench unit of Jabari Parker and stretch advantage to double digit. Tatum swooping layup before the end to tie to 79-71 Milwaukee. Still, you have to kill the Celtics if you want to kill them. Boston came back by firing a dunk 5-0 run by Nader. Milwaukee surged a lead against with 8 straight, and the lead was 10-10. They almost streamed it closer. Brown shot rimmed out. Baines putback dunk was waved off with the double line violation, which was not something to see often. Again, Baines' putback dunk was waved off with the double lane violation, which was not something you can see often. Antetokounmpo pulled back Bucks with the dunk, layup following the Euro step, and Bledsoe, Eric Bledsoe punished the Boston zone with the 3, and the Celtics weren't quite finished. Tatum made pair of free throws and hit Jabari Parker with the dribble, and one-handed dunk. Giannis answered again. Brown finished 24 points, Tatum 20, Bledsoe 18, and the Celtics lost that way the number 1 place at the Eastern Conference. Impressions from the Bucks game, then?
Well, just like Toronto, that's not a game I would be stressing. Technically, we were down to only 6 decent players in that game, 4 of which are big men. Horford, Baines, Monroe, and Morris. And then from there, it's Brown and Tatum. Everybody else are guys that would either be sitting on the end of the bench, just waiting there for, praying for a chance to play, or guys that would be playing in the D League. That's the way it's been the last few, the last few games, ladies and gentlemen. And playing against a team that right now just clinched the playoff spot just a few days ago, but is still fighting to try and either get the 6, 7, or 8 spot. They're still fighting for, playoff positioning. So, they still had something to play for. And you were playing them in Milwaukee, not here in Boston in this case. So it's a situation that unfortunately, you really can't be upset with this team. The fact that, with that situation, the odds were against you with so many guys out. The fact that you didn't have a point guard just like the night after that in Toronto, and you still kept up with them, which is why I say, if you have Larkin, if you have Rozier, and everybody else, you gotta think to yourself, you have a decent shot to knock them off in the playoffs, because for one, you're gonna have no games that are gonna be back-to-backs. You're gonna be well rested for every game. Brad Stevens is gonna have a chance in this case to make the adjustments. You're going to be playing the same team every game in this case, and more importantly, think about it, Igor. You're talking about a team that is young. You think about Milwaukee, Washington, and Miami. One reason why you and me have discussed these three teams and said we don't want Washington is that Washington is more of a veteran team than Miami or Milwaukee. Yeah. So, you had to go through Washington last year when we had Isaiah Thomas.
And they have 2 stars.
Exactly.
They have 2 stars.
Exactly.
Milwaukee has 1, and Miami has 0.
Well, Miami has Dwayne Wade, and we all know what he's capable of. Even though he's an older player, but you do not want to risk him having a big game at some point. So Milwaukee has Antetokounmpo, but you know what you got to do to him. You got to make him a jump shooter. And you got Horford, you got Baines, you got Monroe, you got Morris. Those guys can do it, So this team has a chance if you face the Milwaukee Bucks. And Brad Stevens is a brilliant coach. Going against the Milwaukee, you got a chance facing the same team where he's just going to focus on the same team every game. That's the team you're going to want to face. Milwaukee does not want to face this Celtics team if you're going to have the opportunity to zone in on the same team each and every day, knowing that you're going to have some games where it's just one day to rest. Other games, it's going to be 2 days in between, because that's how the first round works. It's not unlike round 2, round 3 in the finals, where it's usually every other day in this situation. So as long as we have Rozier and Larkin available, this Celtics team will have a chance. I like their chances against Milwaukee more than I do against Miami, and especially against Washington. Milwaukee will be the ideal matchup.
Yeah. I mean, I agree with you, but I must say that I want to face Miami, but it will not happen. So I'm perfectly content with Milwaukee, and it is what it is. We will see in the first round what happens. We will preview the first round on our show that will be on the program Friday 13th April. The end of the regular season show. Don't miss it with Jay King. For the end of this show, Danny, tell me what to expect with this 54 winning team of the Celtics. We have Atlanta tomorrow, 1 p.m. Eastern. I said without Marcus Morris, without Gershon Yabusele, who injured himself last night, and without Irving, Smart, Hayward, and Tice. Then Brad Stevens said that he will put playoff roster in Washington, Tuesday, 10th April, 8 p.m. Eastern, and probably Wednesday night, April 11th in Brooklyn. So we should expect 3 wins, or at worst 2-1, right?
Well, before I answer that, remembering what I said earlier, it is still possible for us to get Miami if Milwaukee wins tonight against New York, because Miami's got to face the Thunder in their next game. So if the Bucks win tonight, which right now it's 65-64 New York in the third quarter. So if the Bucks win this game tonight, the Bucks will be tied with the Miami Heat. And then that means that the Thunder, if they knock off the Heat in the next game, that would make it where the Bucks in their next game could go ahead of the Miami Heat if they win, which the Bucks in their next game would be facing the Orlando Magic. So that's still possible. and that means we would have to beat the Washington Wizards. So that is still a possibility. But again, for the Celtics, I would expect us to knock off the Hawks because, again, Brad Stevens is, got to go the route of trying to give some of our guys the opportunity to rest, which is what he's doing, resting Morris and all of that. That game against the Washington Wizards is a game where I do feel he's going to, like you say, play everybody, because not only is he got to get everybody the opportunity to still play together, I think he feels just like the rest of us. We do not want to go the route of playing Washington in round one, because even he kind of feels...
Marcus Morris said it.
Exactly. Because I think even Brad Stevens, the players, all of them feel that going and getting beat in round one would make this a losing season. That this season, unfortunately, even with the injuries, losing in round one would basically be a failed season. If you get to round two and you were to lose to Toronto, or lose to Cleveland, or lose to Philly or something like that, maybe you can live with it because of the injury situation. But losing in round one would be an unacceptable thing, knowing that you basically were the second seed. So going and beating Washington would pretty much make it where you're facing Miami or Milwaukee. That's pretty much the way it looks right now. So I think that's how Brad Stevens is going about it. He's going to basically play the guys to make sure we try to knock off the Wizards that night, so that the Wizards can try to stay in the 8th seed. But of course, ladies and gentlemen, us beating the Wizards that night also means that Miami and Milwaukee, that everything has to go right when it comes to those two teams in order to make sure Washington stays down there. So, of course, later on tonight, I will be putting up the information for how things with those two teams have to work in order for you guys to know who we can end up facing. But I expect us to basically...
I think, Danny, that Heat has tiebreaker over Milwaukee. And I don't know about Heat and Washington matchup, but you will put that at the pace, right?
Yeah, right now the Heat do own the head-to-head tiebreaker over the Milwaukee Bucks, and the Heat own the conference tiebreaker over the Washington Wizards in this situation. So that's the case. So that's why technically the Miami Heat do own the tiebreakers, which is why the Milwaukee Bucks would have to finish one game ahead over the Miami Heat, which is why Miami finishes the season against Oklahoma City and the Toronto Raptors. So, depending on what the Toronto Raptors do in that last game, you never know if they play their guys or if they decide to sit them. But OKC, because OKC has not clinched a playoff spot yet, and of course they might want to avoid the Warriors and the Rockets. They're going to have a lot to play for.
They're playing Houston now.
They have a lot.
They're playing Houston.
Yeah, so the Thunder will have a lot to play for. So Miami, that you can pretty much probably say that game will probably be a loss. So Milwaukee will have a chance to actually basically gain some ground on Miami. But if they lose tonight to the Knicks, it basically will make it where Miami will probably end up clinching the 6th seed in this case, because Miami will not be able to pass them in all likelihood unless Toronto decides to play the final game of the season. But like I said, we will have to beat Washington if we want any chance of avoiding the Wizards in that final spot, because Washington owns the tiebreaker over Milwaukee. But for the Celtics, that's pretty much it. The Celtics, it's obvious they want to avoid the Wizards, just like you, me, and many Celtic fans basically want it as well. Yeah. And that's what it is. They're going to play them because of that. And, of course, I think after that, in my opinion, after that, the next game, if there's anybody that needs to rest, I say you rest them. Heck, even if you got to basically make it where you're playing the entire game with the D-League players, you let the entire game go like that with the D-League players. You don't risk anybody in that final game, because after that, you probably will know who you're playing in round one, and you prepare for it. As simple as that.
Excellent stuff, Danny. And again, just to mention that the next show is April 13th, 7 p.m. Eastern. We have excellent guest, Jay King, and the possible 2 more guests, but stay with us and you will see who they are. And for tonight's chat, that was all. The Celtics lost Kyrie Irving for the season. The Celtics also lost by losses in Milwaukee and Toronto, back-to-back games, the first place of the Eastern Conference, or the chance to catch Toronto at the first place of the Eastern Conference. So the Celtics are clinched second. Now we are waiting for the opponent. Currently, the Celtics are playing, would play Milwaukee Bucks in the first round, and rejuvenated, excellent young team, Philadelphia 76ers in the second round. I like those matchups. I hope it will stay this way, but we will talk about that Friday. Until the next chat, who will be probably after the Game 2 playoffs. I'm wishing you good night. Subscribe to YouTube channel. You will find this show and 27 more video chats. Subscribe to our blogtalkradio.com page, Celtics Talk Radio. Follow the show. Don't miss any shows there. We have 197 shows, 198 episodes on April 13th. We have 67 special episodes, and we have right now 28 video chats. We are Igor and Danny. We are Celtics Talk Radio, and until the next radio show and the next video chat, we are wishing you good night, and tomorrow root for the Celtics against Atlanta. Go Celtics. Danny?
So again, ladies and gentlemen, we'll see you tomorrow at the game time. Hopefully the Celtics, don't lose anybody else, because it's becoming ridiculous with the way things are going. Thank God that Kyrie Irving surgery went well. It's the best news we've had all day. And, I'll give you the information again. Check tonight online for the latest after the Milwaukee Bucks game is over. Again, it's third quarter. So once that game is over, we will have an update on the current standings and what the information will be for what will need to happen for us to get the Miami Heat, the Milwaukee Bucks, or the Washington Wizards in round 1. So we'll keep you updated over the next few days. And again, thank you for joining us tonight, and we'll see you all on Friday for the next radio show, as Igor said. And if not, we'll see you all for the next show after that, which will be after Game 1 of the NBA playoffs for the Boston Celtics. So thank you again for joining us.
Have a good night. And